Hello guys, welcome to another session on TestNG series, and in this session we will look at integration of extent reports with in TestNG. Okay, so extent reports are basically used to generate interactive reports that can be used to go through the execution report. Okay, so we can see pass fail information. It can include some of the chats, okay, with the pass and fail percentages, skip percentage, etc. Any other additional information that we might include into that extent report configuration. Okay, so in order to enable extent reports in TestNG, we need to follow a couple of steps, and here I have listed down them as adding extent reports dependency. Okay, so this is the dependency which we will be importing from Maven repository. Okay, and the other one will be creating a manager class. So this class is in which we will be giving creating an instance of an extent report, how to create a test, track them, etc., and so on. Okay, we will talk in detail more when we come to that step. Okay, and final action includes adding a couple of or replacing couple of statements in our iTest listener implementation class. Okay, let's see these three steps one by one. Okay, let's go to IntelliJ. Right, so why do we need extent reporting? Right, by default TestNG generates some reporting which we can look at. So that report is available under test output folder. If we expand that one, we see index.html, and this HTML file can be opened in any browser. And how to open that? Right click on that index.html, go to open in, and here browser, and here select the browser, one of your favorite browsers. In my case I am selecting Edge. Right, so that particular files opens up in Edge browser, and here in this browser we can see the information on the tests that have been run, and the summary, like how many passed, failed, etc. information over here. Right, this is also kind of interactive, but not as much as we want that to be. Okay, so we can select the tests, we can get the information. If we select the tests that are failed, that shows up hide, show, etc. information. Right, so this is our testng.xml file, and this is the test that ran. So this is the name of the test we gave in our testng.xml. Okay, so these are a couple of other information which we have. So these are the actual tests that ran, and how many failed and how many passed is the information we have. Okay, switch to retro theme. So this go back to the older version of the report, and it also contains the same information. So what is the other report that gets generated when we run any testng.xml? So we can say this is also another report which is not emailable, not interactive, but still we can see the information, like how many tests run, how many passed, how many failed. Okay, this also can be considered as an report. And here also under test output folder we have one more file which is emailable report.html. This also can be opened in a browser, so we can select any browser here again. So this is slightly different from what we have seen here, compared to the index.html report, right? So this is to send the emails. So here also it is slightly interactive and it contains the same information which this index.html is displaying. Okay, so it also gives number of passes, fails, etc. So this can be attached to an email and can be sent to any of the people or the team members who are interested to receive these reports. Okay, but when we include extent reports, we can see the clear difference between this defaultly generated reports versus the extent report. Okay, so in order to have uh, uh, extent report enabled, we need to add the dependency of that extent reports, and in this case the dependency looks something like how we have added TestNG before, and this TestNG dependency we added that from Maven repository, right? Likewise we will now should add one extent reports dependency which can be fetched from online. Again we can type maven extent report dependency, right? We can go to maven repository directly. We can click that one, and from here we can see the available um, versions of that library, and this is the latest one which we have 5.1.2, but I would like to go one version before the latest one, so that we can run our tests without any issues, unknown issues. Okay, so now this is the dependency text which we need to add in our pom.xml. So if we click anywhere over here, this entire thing will be copied to the clipboard, right? Now this has been copied upon clicking, so we will paste this whatever copied information in our pom.xml. Okay, and once upon doing that one, if we expand here, we should be seeing the library uh, as extent reports getting added here. Currently we do not see that, but in order to, if this won't get downloaded automatically, then we have to force them by clicking maven expand lifecycle and select on install and click this run maven build button, right? This has completed installing, and now this errors whatever we are seeing because of the test runs that we have deliberately failing to test one of our previous implementation of one of the methods, right? So we can ignore that for now, and the main thing is it has finished installing, and until that part it went well, and we see couple of libraries has been downloaded, and coming to the test part is where we are seeing this issue or the reported issue here in red color, which we can ignore that one. Okay, now once after the maven install completes, we have to refresh the folder, and even upon refreshing, if we do not see the external jars or libraries getting added, then we can actually restart the IDE. So how do we restart that one? We go to file, and here we will select invalidate caches, and here we have to select just restart, and upon clicking this button the IntelliJ IDE will restart, and we can start looking at them. So let me restart. So now the IDE has been restarted and we can see this ExtentReports library has been downloaded, and this is where we see all the jars or libraries that are related to ExtentReport. Okay, with that now included in our project, let us go and create a manager class. Okay, we will create a manager class and implement these ExtentReports. Okay, right click on Java, new Java class, and I will name that as ExtentReport Manager. Okay, and this class should contain two variables for us, and those are like private static extent reports, and we will name that as ExtentReporter. Okay, ExtentReporter, and another one is a private static final thread local, and this thread local will be of type extent test. Okay, so this could be confusing, just give me a minute, let me complete this and we can talk about it. Okay, and test thread and is equal to new thread local. Okay, so these are the two variables that are needed. Now these are appearing in red, that means we have to import some classes, right, which are like ExtentReports class and ExtentTest class. Upon mouse hovering, we can see that option as import class, selecting that one, and for this also I am importing. Okay, so what are these ExtentReports and ExtentTest? Okay, so ExtentReports is the main core engine class of ExtentReports. So it actually manages the overall reporting life cycle, and it handles some of the information, like if we provide like the tester name, maybe, right, the environment in which we are running the test, and test name, etc., and so on. And it actually attaches a report to this ExtentReports, which can then be shared with the team members or other people who are interested. Likewise, ExtentReport, this is the class that represents individual test case. Okay, and that means like if we are running multiple tests parallelly, and each test will be handled with this extent test class, and we can make use of the methods inside this class to actually mark the test cases, pass, fail, skipped, etc. information. Okay, so these are the two ones, and there is another class also which we'll look at shortly. But coming to this thread local class in Java actually provides local variables. So local variables which ensure that every thread accessing the variable has its own data. So when I say every thread accessing this variable, means like for every test that is running in parallel, we create a new thread, and each thread will then be given a name, and whatever their data captured during that particular threads or test execution, that data will be kept local to that particular thread only. Okay, later on that entire thing will be reported back as one report, so which we will be seeing again. So for now, ExtentReports is the main class which manages the overall reporting life cycle, and ThreadLocal actually creates local variables which manager or holds the tests that are executing parallelly. Okay, and each thread will be holding one test. All right, Yep. So now let's create another mm, um, this time a method. So we will create a method which actually returns extent reports type of object. Okay, for that we will be saying public static, and this, as I said, as the type of the object type is extent reports, we have to give the extent reports as the type extent reports, and to this we have to give a name, method name. So we will say extent reporter and get extent reporter, and now comes the body of this one. So now what this particular method will give us, it will give an instant or instance of this extent reports. Okay, so we need to get one extent report which further used to actually store our test case execution information. And first of all, in order to create an instance, we need to check if an instance already exists. So this whatever thing we are going to do is called a singleton pattern, right? So for every execution we are doing, we want to manage one instance of the extent reports. Okay, so that the individual statuses captured by multiple threads are reported back to this particular object, okay, or instance, so that only one report gets generated. So for every test that is trying to report to or access this extent reports objects should be given only one instance for every test case. So every test case now should receive this as the instance, and to which they should write the results back. Okay, so in order to do that, what we will do is we will first check if this instance exists or not. So how do we do that? So we have created one object, one variable before, which is extent reporter, and we will look for that one if it is null or it has some value assigned to that. So for that we will do is extend if extent reporter is equal to null, right? If it is null, then only come into this block below. Okay, if it exists, then that is a different condition we will handle, but currently, like, if this is null, then we will ask that to perform some actions, and in order to perform those actions, we will actually add during those actions, what we will do is we will add some special functionality or configuration to this extent report or extent reporter object. Okay, for that what we will be doing is we will create another variable as extent spark reporter, right? So this is another class which I was saying before, which is extent spark reporter. So this contains the layer of the layout of the extent reports. When we say layout, the information which needs to be which needs to appear within the report when it's get generated, besides test, pass, fail, etc., and so on, we capture some of the general information that is required as well. So for that we will create this one, and this new object extend spark reporter, and we'll say is equal to new extend spark reporter, and this takes one argument, like the location where we want this report to be added or generated. So in the previous sessions we have enabled target folder. So for this report we usually prefer adding target as the folder. So that's the reason I am giving target and the name of the report. So let's to keep it simple. I will be giving the name as extent report dot. In the format we want this report will be HTML. Okay, and now we will add a couple of configuration to this one, and that is going to be ExtentSparkReporter dot config, and we can add a theme to that, like there will be the color theme of our report. So this is one of the things which most commonly we use, and the theme we are going to add is if we look at this one, we have couple of values: dark, standard. So most most of us either use dark. When we say dark, it will be dark black highlighted layout. Standard is like a white colored layout. So we will use standard maybe for this one. Okay, that is one of the settings we are setting to our reporter. And again, ExtentReporter dot config dot, we can actually set a report name. Okay, and that can thing set report name, and we can give any name that we want to give to our execution, and we will say TestNG series execution report. Okay, TestNG execution report. And likewise we can add multiple other methods that we want to do, but for now I am sticking to just two of them. So we have these many options available. Not everyone will be using everything, but some we can add depending on what we want to include in our report. So for now I am giving only the above two um, settings or configurations to our reporter. Okay, now we will say like now create the reporter. So now we are saying extent reporter is equal to new extent reports, right? This is where we are initializing that one, right? And then what we will do is, to this we will be attaching this extent spark reporter. Okay, for that we will select that one, dot attach reporter, and we will pass this variable as argument over there. So now whatever configuration we set to this extent spark reporter will be linked to this extent reporter. Okay, now we can, if we want here, we can use some additional information as well, like extent reporter dot set, and we can see, if you look at here, system information, strategy, Gherkin dialect, etc., and so on. But let us say system set system information, and here we can say like who tested this one, like AUTHR author, and this is going to the key, and the value will be QA name. Okay, so likewise we can add any number of information that we want to display on our report. We can say like environment, right? And let us say this is a QA environment, right? QA environment, and we have to give commas over here, right? This will get printed in our report as is. Okay, and likewise we can add there are other available methods if we want to. And then finally what we want to do is we want to return this object, because this is the object which is getting returned upon calling this method, and we will say return and extent reporter. So this is the instance that is getting returned if there is no setup or there is no a value assigned to this extent reporter object. Okay, there doesn't need to be an else condition for this. So simply, usually when we first run for the first test execution, this will be null, and hence it will do all this, perform all these actions, and it will return a reporter with this information linked to that. And when the second test runs, it will come again to this method, and it will look for the extent reporter if it is null or it has some value assigned to that. Now already the first test has created an instance of this reporter, so now it will go out of this, it won't go inside this block, but it will skip executing that block and looks and returns the same instance that got created when the first test ran. And this action repeats for any number of tests that are looking for an extent reporter instance or an object. Okay, so every time a test tries to access this one, so the same extent reporter will be given to that test. Okay, now we need one more method which actually returns extent test. So now this one return extent reports. Now the method which we are going to write will now return extent test. Alright, so let us write that method public static, and we will give the type it returns is extent test, and extent test, and we'll name the method as set test. Okay, and this one takes an argument which is test name, right? So in this case we can call it test case name. Okay, and goes a block now, and here we will create an object of that extent test as test name equal to get report, and here is where we will be using this method which we have created above, which is get reporter dot create test. So now this will have the actual test name, so which we will pass as test name. So this is where we'll be setting the test name, and this one test thread now, which is the current thread which is executing this test case, we will set that test name as the thread name, right, which is test name, right, and with a semicolon. Now this one is like every thread will get actually a name from this method, and every thread will be using the same instance of the extent reporter. Now suppose when we are running multiple test cases in parallel, so every almost a couple of those tests might try to access this information, right, want to get this instance of extent report in order to start writing its contents to that, right? So when we do so, what happens is, since multiple tests are accessing this reporter parallelly, every time something tries to write to that reporter, the information is not um, the information is not in the serial order per test execution, but it will be like a multiple tests information writing in parallel. And sometimes the previously written value will get removed or um, deleted from this reporter. So in order to avoid that one, we have to mark this method whatever we have written as synchronized. So what does this mean, synchronized, right? So when multiple threads are created, right, say suppose we have 4 test cases which are executing as part of one test execution. So the first test will first have come to this method, and since there is no other thread currently accessing it, that one, it will go and get the instance of the reporter. While it is doing that, the second, third and fourth test cases will wait until that finishes fetching the instance of this report and gets out of this method. Only then the second thread will enter into this method, while thread number 3 and 4, or test number 3 and 4, will wait for the second thread to leave the method. Likewise, if the remaining tests or threads will wait until the current thread gets this information, and likewise every thread will wait for its turn, and once upon getting that information, it will get out of this method. So that is why this method should be in synchronized, and that is the keyword we have used over there. Okay, and in order to we are setting the test, but also we want to get the test as well. So for that we will write another method which is public static, and this is again of type extent test, and here we will say get test, and what this should return is return test thread, right? So this is the test thread that is being returned. Actually this here we said it will return an extent test, but we haven't written that statement over here. So what we should be returning is the test name. Okay, and this method is also having a return statement. Now upon completing the execution, like suppose in the as the same example, we have 4 tests that are running in parallel. So once all the tests run, and we won't be needing this extent reporter instance to be circulating there, right? So for that what we will do is we will clear this instance from all the information we have configured and all the information that has captured during the execution. So for that we will write another method which is public static, and this doesn't need to actually give us or return any information. So we will say static void, and we will call this method as flush reporter. Okay, flush reporter, and this one, if we give the same condition, if extent reporter is not null this time. So if it is already null, then we need not have to flush out anything, but if it is there is some extent exists, then we have to say extent reporter dot flush. So this is the method which we use to clear the instance from any of the information that is holding. And I think here we are missing synchronized. Again we should wait for the thread to give us the thread name or test name. Okay, so with this we have completed writing the extent report manager, which is the second step from the slide what we have seen. Now we have to update this information in our TestNG listener implementation class. And how do we do that? So we will go to this implementation class over here, and we can either keep this information like this and add the necessary or required information over there, or we can delete this information. Anything is fine with that. Okay, now how to add this one? So for that, since we have written all the static methods, we do not need a instant or reference object of test manager class. Instead, we can directly call those methods extend report manager with the class name, and we will say since this is on test start, we have to set the test. So for that, set test, and within this one we will give the argument as result dot get method dot get method name. So now this will get the method that is being executed. Okay, likewise we will add statements in the other ones as well. ExtentReport manager dot get test dot pass. So this is when any test passes. So at that time we want to give some message as test passed. Okay, similarly we can write one for test failure dot get test dot fail, and here what we want to do is we want to print some message as test failed. So likewise we can write one for test skipped. Right? We can ignore this on test failed, or if we want we can write that as well, but for now that is not required. Okay, and now here this is the method which runs at the beginning of the execution of the test. So far these above methods begins or ends or capture the status of method execution, but this method over here on start will be at the test level. So for that we need to, now here is where we need that get reporter information. So ExtentReport manager dot get reporter. Right, and now the final step where we will be clearing the reporter, or we will be releasing the reporter, and the method which we have written is flush reporter. So that's it now guys. So this is the last step in implementing the extent reporter. Now since we have this all information, now let us just look at our testng.xml. Do we need any changes? We have the testng listener added, and we have this class that we want to test. So this test runs 5 times, and out of 5 times it fails 3 times, and it will reports. Okay, now let's see like where this ExtentReport file gets generated, right? So what we have specified in our ExtentReport manager class is to generate the folder file in this target folder. So if we go and look at our target folder, we do not see that, but let us reload from disk. Do not see that yet, but let me enable that one more time. Modules target excluded, apply. Okay, so now we have this target folder, and in this target folder currently we are not seeing any extent ExtentReporter, extent reporter, right? ExtentReporter.html file. But the expectation now is upon running this one and refreshing target folder, we should now see that ExtentReport.html. Okay, let us run this one. So the test has run and we are seeing 2 tests failed, though 3, but it is reporting 2, so we have 2 passed, and we can see this ExtentReport.html getting generated over here. And how to access this one? The same way how we accessed the previous reports. Right click on that, open in browser and Edge browser. So this is the ExtentReport format that we are seeing. Okay, now let me close this Maven repository tabs, and now see this is the default TestNG reporter, and this is emailable, sorry, default TestNG report, and this one is emailable report, and this is the extent report. Now this has some additional information compared to that one, and here we see every other information like what happened by clicking on each test case. And as we add more logging information to these tests, we can see that information getting added over here. And this is the name of the execution report which we have given over here, TestNG series execution report. And we have also given the author and environment information, which we can see somewhere here. Here author as QA done and environment as QA. So this additional information or the layout, everything can be controlled from this method over here, which is get reporter method. Okay, now if we are not currently seeing any additional information why this has failed here, but we can if we add something to that, like we'll go to test listener, test failed. Instead of a test failed over here, that is the message we are seeing. If we replace this one, we comment this out, and let us say result where am I on test success. This is not where we want to do that. We want to enable this over here. Let's copy it down here where test is failing, and let's comment this out. Extent, and here we will say result dot throwable, get throwable, this one. Okay, upon adding this one, let us run our test case one more time. Now the test has completed executing. We can go here and refresh the browser once so that we can have the updated version of the report. Now if we click on that one, now we will see this additional information getting printed over there, right? So even for this we will be seeing that one. This is for this, there was no error reason reported, because in order to understand why, we have to go and look for another session on test failed, but but with success percentage session, where we clearly talked about why this isn't marked as failure and gave that information. Okay, and here these two are marked as failed, but why are we seeing them as pass over here? Test failed. Okay, because we are saying pass, that's the reason. So that is the some of the common errors which we do by simply copying and pasting the code, right? Now the test has completed and the browser has refreshed. Now we can see the correct status as failed and the reason why that exactly failed. Okay, so this is how we can implement the extent reports in any test framework, right? Currently here we have used it for TestNG, but the same can be used or implemented when we are automating the Selenium scripts. So even for Selenium frameworks, Selenium TestNG frameworks, we can use this report. Selenium TestNG Cucumber framework, we can use this report. And this is the report that is being widely used outside at workplaces. And there is another report which is Allure report. So even that implemented somewhat similar in this same way, but it is a quicker one when it comes to setup point of view compared to this extent report. Extent report needs some more coding, like implementing this class and everything, right? But Allure might not need all those things, but it has to we have to pass a maven command in order to generate those reports. Okay, so that is the only additional step we do besides adding the libraries and making some code changes for logging, right? But we can use either Allure or ExtentReport. ExtentReport is slightly tedious, but it has more features compared to Allure. So that's it. That's all for this session. So that is all about integrating extent reports with TestNG. And with this, we are concluding the TestNG series tutorials. And hopefully, this helps some of you or most of you who are trying to learn TestNG. I'm sure there will be some confusions on how to implement or use this with the Selenium tests. So I'm planning for Selenium sessions as well, where we will, instead of using these methods or some print statements within the methods, we will be actually writing the Selenium code. Okay, but even before that, I want to finish up some Java tutorial. So I'm planning in such a way that is helpful to all the beginners or new to Java people who can easily understand. So I'm working on the material of that Java, so hoping that will help a lot of new people to learn Java without any hesitation or without any fearness of understanding that, trouble understanding that one. Okay, so like I said, that's it for this TestNG series. If you have learned something, if you have liked something, then please like, share, and subscribe. Do not forget to subscribe. As well as if you have any comments on the way I am teaching this one, if you think of any areas of improvement, then please do let me know in the form of comments, so that I can improvise from the next session onwards. All right, so until the next session, wish you all good luck learning. All right.